Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Please like and subscribe my channel for more awesome contents and do support. Let's start the video. Famous last words, as people would define, is said to serve as an ironic comment or reply to an overconfident assertion that may well be proven wrong by events. Yet the ones that are in fact famous are strangely few and far in between. So I used to wonder what kind of thoughts would invade someone's mind when death's door was a breath away. If life flashes before your eyes is an actual phenomenon and not just some sort of tall tale made up by imaginative and wishful storytellers or overly dramatic people. And if it was true, he wondered how it would feel to watch your entire life flashes by. What rays of emotions would they experience from remembering every single thing that eventually led to the birth of those famous last words? Because as he lied there, dying, he couldn't think of anything witty to mark his death other than, fuck. His life did not flash by, and neither did the winged woman flash upon him, which was an even bigger letdown. Was he to die without ever seeing a girl's knockers, his very reasons of existence, with his own very eyes? Was he doomed to never feel their fineness, their plumpness, their marshmallow-like softness as he had imagined? Was he forever stuck with his own imaginations and feeling his anime girl mouse pads would be his closest experience of touching those fun bags? Yes. Yes, he would. And so, the young perverted boy known as Highschool died in a severe case of blood loss from the gaping hole in his chest. That, or the organ's failure, killed him first. Either way, he died unimpressively. He lived his life like a virgin, and died as a true virgin. His date and murderer for the evening stood there, looking not the least mournful or even bothered by his dead body slumping awkwardly by the fountain with his rear pointing to the sky. He might be dead, and she was his killer, but she was still a sight to behold. Especially after she transformed into this kinky slaver master torturer woman. Something of the sort. Bondage was outside his area of interest, but her outfit fit her looks surely perfectly. Silky jet black hair, juicy tender thighs that he'd die for to plant his face in between, slim slender waist, lovely healthy pair of breasts, and a sadistic beautiful face to top it all. Not that it mattered anymore. He was killed. Dead. Gone from this world. Freed from his mortal coil. Unbridled from the hardships of living. Not breathing. Unalive. Some believe that once you die, you'll be reborn depending on your good and bad deeds. If you did more good than bad, then you'd be reborn as a new human fresh from the oven, or more appropriately, a mother's womb. If you do more bad or was very bad during your time, then you'd have to live your next life as a nude. Or worse, a tree. Imagine spending your entire day hanging there, photosynthesizing oxygen, doing nothing but being a crucial entity for the human to live whilst feeling trivial as long as you live, only to be cut down by a money-hungry corporation or burnt down by those idiots in Brazil. And to some others, the Christians, or preachers as he referred them, claimed that the souls of people who passed away went to either heaven or hell. Or as the Catholics would like to input, to some sort of a waiting room first to wait for their turn to be judged, where their good and bad would be weighed first. Eventually they would all go to one of those two places as their final destination, living in jubilant joy in the land of milk and honey, or forever being poked by pointy sticks held by red-skinned people with goat horns. In other words, a devil. In a traditional manner of speaking, of course. But those descriptions, which were not only racist, stereotypical, rude, demeaning, and on top of it all, condescending, were false. However, there was some truth in it. That the soul didn't perish once its life ended. Especially not his. As he died, his soul did leave his body. It did voyage through a dimension incomprehensible for our eyes, but this soul was not to be reborn as an animal or a plant or a nude, nor did it go towards the glorious pearly gates of heaven to be judged by an angel or God himself, as if he didn't have anything better to spend his endless time. Nope. His soul went straight to hell. Or in a more accurate term, as the soul of the Dark Prince was never originally a human soul, returned to hell. Break off. With a sharp gasp, He rose from his centuries-long slumber. The shock of being alive again brought him to sit up, but his sitting up was prevented by something realistically solid and made of stone that caused a very real headache when it slammed his head. AGH, son of 100 blistering typhoons, for a good amount of time, he uttered all the curses and combination of flowery insults that he learnt during his past lives. He rarely uttered curses, at least none creative and lengthy for common cases, but slamming his forehead to a rock first thing after waking up wasn't exactly a common case. Calming down to a murmur of blasphemies, he found that he was encased in a tight space. A casket or some sort. It was highly uncomfortable and smelled dirty like dirt. Ah. Balls. He groaned as he realized where and who he was and why he was here in a tomb. Normally, after dying as a human, his soul would look around for another human vessel to latch on, forgetting the memories of whatever life he had. From a street sweeper to a king. From somebody to a nobody or the other way around. Obviously that wasn't the case this time. Still uncomfortably resting on the rough gravelly surface, he contemplated his life. He hummed, finding it odd that he still held some memories of his latest humanly life. As too. From the moment of his birth to his death, complete like reading a biography book of that boy, except some pages were missing. Irrelevant none the least, he cared little for his petty human lives. His russet brown eyes flickered into a dark shade of crimson, before everything in a mile radius was enveloped by a fierce explosion. Dust, dirt, mud and smoke wafted high up to the air as he crept out from his grave, crawling out into the clearing, upon the crater he made, in the middle of a barren wasteland that once was a battlefield. No vegetation in sight. No water. Just a parched no-man's land surrounded by an ocean of everlasting fire. Destruction as far as his eyes could see. But that might have been his fault. His dry lips pursed back as old memories came back like a flash flood. The fighting, the screaming, the perhaps necessary bloodshed, and the countless deaths that followed, all of them reoccurred to him like the only redeeming scene of an otherwise horrible war movie. He couldn't tell which was worse, the screams or the sounds of bones splintering apart or flesh being cleaved by either an angelic sword or a hellish one, or both. Such an ugly thing, war is. Not the time for depressing thoughts. He pepped himself, and was a little bit surprised at his own original voice. It had been long since he heard himself talk this smooth yet husky, sexily raspy. Devilishly charming of a voice. Especially devilish. A significant improvement from that perverted brat. He made a note to put it to test and swoon the first woman he met. And women. Ah, women. He could never praise his father enough for creating these delicate creatures, perhaps the only kind that could turn their loving, intoxicating embrace into a heartless and cruel one. Like a flip of a coin. Strange creations they were, Eve most especially, but he certainly would not complain for their existence, and they would praise his existence once he was done with them. Hearing his old voice also brought another thought to mind. A dire one, in fact. The king of hell, well, former king of hell, should not look like a pile of rotting bones with a dehumanized figure that would give nightmares to demons. No, no. That'd make a horrible first impression. A pillar of crystallized ice emerged from the dead earth. Perfectly smooth surface but not blindingly shiny. He took a look at himself. He was unclothed, but, why hello there. Label me as charmed would you? And here he thought he had become a mangled corpse during his temporary vacation. It turned out he was worrying for naught. Still he retained his magnificent form that can make the morning stars pale in comparison. Still he was devilishly dashing and angelically stunning. Still he retained the appearance of good old Prince of Darkness. He could use some trimming, though. He looked like Jesus. Not a problem too big to handle. As another couple of seconds, he regained his old look. His bold brown hair in a quiff hairstyle that everyone used to make fun of, his beloved black suit, over his white dress shirt and trousers, and not forgetting his elegant dress shoes. He was way ahead of his time, you see. He had been wearing these apparels even when leather sandals and slippers and baggy saggy poorly fitting clothes were the trend back in the day. Something was missing, though. His wrist felt naked. Could use a watch, he supposed. Christ for the irony, maybe. He checked himself out in front of the makeshift mirror for a little while longer, until someone cut his self-appreciating moment short. I don't remember you ever being this debonair, runt. That rumbly, beastly voice made his skin jump. Seven hells, who said that? He demanded as he looked around the vicinity, alerted, and a little bit creeped out. He wondered if this was what Adam felt when he heard his creator's voice for the first time. Who I am. The voice continued, chuckling deeply like a rumbling avalanche. I'll tell you who I am. Boy, he said. Proudly, haughtily, like a warrior wanting to boast. I was here at this desolate land you stand. I was present during the grandest war of all wars. The Great War. Here, at the very place where the three factions meddled, my eternal bout against my rival, the White Dragon of Supremacy. Only when they combined forces due to our indomitable power that they defeated us, and sealed me within an artifact. An artifact bestowed from the God of the Bible to his creations. Humans. What I reside is a sacred gear. A longinus. Are you even listening? Oh yeah, sure. Sacred rear. Lengthy nose. Bits and bobs. He was in the middle of fixing the lapels of his black suit and adjusting his red tie, so no, he was not. It's sacred gear you lout. And it's longinus, roared the being trapped in said artifact. Are you not aware who you are talking with? I am the red dragon of domination. Mountains crumble as I speak, seas part and the earth split upon my arrival, and my presence alone instill unaltered fear to the hearts of many. I am the one who caused havoc and forced the three major factions to combine their strength in order to defeat me. I am why Drake Gooch. Well, I'm sure it is very nice to meet you, Drakey. He said without a sliver of care, smiling his set of pearly whites and winking at himself for being so darn good-looking. He did find his name to be odd. Are you Welsh, by any chance? The dragon's snarl escalated to a low growl. My name is Drake. Oh, pipe down will you? Yelling won't sharpen your point. The man let off a throaty chuckle as he tore a black slit into the air with a drag of the finger, and pried it wider with both his hands. The sudden silence of his guttural growls implied that the mighty dragon was stunned, and he was. That's a portal, Drake muttered in wonder. Did you just tire a rift in space and time? Sure. The devil replied flippantly. Hold on. Humans can't do that. Who says I'm a human? Drake rechecked the current state of his host's soul. You've become a devil? Become. I wouldn't put it that way. Do you think I'm a devil because I'm inherently evil, or just because dear old dad decided I was? Drake was baffled. Not even he could conjure a direct doorway to the same world, let alone making one to another world. How? What is your name? Lucifer. Son of God. Sort of. It's complicated. The godfather of all devils replied with an eager smile, unknowingly rendering the proud red dragon emperor speechless as he stepped into the portal back to Earth, to the empty nave of a deserted church. Necessities of evil, surged Lucifer, the brilliantly crimson-haired young-looking fellow whose age was nowhere close to young in human perspective, regarded as Satan Lucifer by the residents of the underworld. For the first time since his Japanophile little sister showed him her impressive collection of artifacts, was muddled by bewilderment. During his lifetime as a devil, he had seen, experienced, and even created, myriads of spectacles that many deemed as miracles. However, never had he seen a crater that not only was half a mile deep and a mile in radius, unbelievably smooth and shaped like the insides of a ball cut in half, would appear out of nowhere and in the middle of nowhere. Surge stepped back from the edge, mystified. This wasn't here until today? He asked the gigantic creature standing beside him. Thanon was a bipedal dragon of dark purple scales with twin yellow horns that reflected the shine of the dark sun, the artificial sun created by the devils, from the devils, for the humans. Not when I flew by air 2 hours ago. The Satan's sleek crimson eyebrows creased. You didn't see anything then? Nothing suspicious or inherently strange? Nay. The dragon shook his humongous head, left and right. Deadlands all over. Are you positive this isn't your doing? What do you mean by that? As the dragon shot him a glare, the crimson Satan cackled. Just a little joke. Don't be so mad. I find your lousy gags nauseating at best. The dragon snarled, going to a low growl as Xyz was mildly amused by his unintentional play of words. Thanon decided to shift the topic, back. Got any names? We have no criminals with this caliber. Xyz shrugged his shoulders, shaking his multiple shoulder guards, 3 on each shoulder. Each polished to perfection by those workaholic maids. A few come to mind, he said, speculatively, but I doubt it's any of them. His sharp beryl-hued eyes observed the massive crater once more, sweeping for missing clues, finding none. A strong gust blew off from his nose as Thanon huffed. Ye reckon this was them brats doing? Who? Them brigade oafs. Oafs? The crimson Satan let loose of a burst of chuckle, coming across as a snort. No. I doubt it's them either. They might be oafs, but they act with purpose. This is but a mass graveyard from the Great War. Nothing of value can be retrieved from it apart from a piece of history or dirt, I suppose. We got nothing then. Exactly. Nothing. Heaving a sigh, Xyz nodded. Let's rest the case for now. Think of it as an environmental anomaly. We have more pressing matters at hand. Thanon snorted. Ha! Which? Those snobbish brats? Or that prideful phoenix brat? They have the blood of the late Satans, Thanon. Don't underestimate them. Xyz said wisely as the crimson magic circle, bearing the crimson sigil of the Greenery, formed underneath his feet. I have no say about the latter, though, neither do I can have a say in that matter, unfortunately. The dragon shook his head disapprovingly. Ye damn devils and your inane arranged marriage. You're one as well, Thanon. What does that make you again? A dragon devil? Devil drake? Fate. Sad off, Xyz laughed. Carry on then. After a bright red flash, the crimson Satan disappeared. Thanon took another glance at the caved-in land that could fit 40 of him and then some. He grunted once, shaking his pestering curiosity away as his draconic wings lifted him to the sky in a powerful gust, throwing dusts in the air as the blaze meteor dragon took flight, and soared away from the scene, to return to his patrolling duty. You might think it is demeaning for a dragon of his capacity to stroll around the underworld, but Thanon liked flying, and he also couldn't care less of what you think of him. Break meanwhile, the culprit of the aforementioned natural anomaly was sitting on a pew, in front of an altar inside a Catholic church. Not praying, though. He believed in God, and Jesus too, but he wouldn't necessarily fit as a devout Christian. It was complicated. You missed a spot there, he said to the brutalized middle-aged man kneeling in front of him, who was pathetically wiping the bloodstain from his dress shoes using what was left of his pink-purple suit. As the last bit splatter of those viscous red liquid had been rubbed away from his black, shiny shoes, Lucifer patted the fallen angel's head, beaming a smile. There you go. Not so hard, wasn't it? I knew you could do something correctly if you tried. Well, as long as it's within your capacity of doing, which is rather pathetic in the first place, might I add. Look at these messes you dragged your poor friends into. The devil chirped as he stood up. The man recoiled in fear. He sprawled onto his back as the screams of his dead companions were still fresh in his ears and the terror was fresh in his head. It's not that you're weak. I'm just overly blessed, say. Lucifer picked up a light purple fedora off the ground, and placed it on top of the fallen angel's burnt black hair, dusting it with a stroke that made him flinch. His last eye stared to the suited figure in pure fear as the other had been melted, boiled into vapor by a searing flame. Somehow, Danzy felt no pain. Fresh red blood was dripping off the stump of where his left arm should be, but he was numbed. He felt fear, however. The fear of dying, perhaps. What an expression, Lucifer mused. Well then, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. But I digress. Have you heard of a man Yahuwah? Rainer, if I'm not mistaken. He sauntered down the spiraling staircase of the shady building, a church long forgotten and abandoned, and twice as creepy at night. From what he recalled from his many lives, churches should be holy and bright. It should be filled with the angelic voice of the choir as they raise their praises to the good Lord above. But this one, however, was not only gloomy and dark, untidy, and positively cobwebbed and dust-ridden, it was humid and reeked of all sorts of unpleasantness as well. Not the most suitable places to be wearing a suit. He was very careful upon his steps. Very, very careful, eyeing every place before taking a step like a soldier on a minefield. He didn't want to step on something he'd regret. Sure, he could toss his shoes should that ever happen, but the Morning Star had a pet peeve towards wastefulness. You truly are the original Lucifer. Within him, the Red Dragon Emperor voiced his disbelief. What you did was rather evil. Debasing that man until he can only cower. Is it necessary to kill him as well? Which sounds worse to you? Let him live without limbs, possibly left struggling to forget his night for the rest of his entire life, getting random PTSD, or simply kill him and end his suffering right then and there? Drake thought about it. Lucifer did make sense. Wait, wasn't he just justifying his murder? Besides, evil is a necessity, Drakey, and I'm only evil when I need to be. Their fault for being so uncivilized. Didn't even bother letting me speak. Lucifer replied humorously. Might as well waste some time while he scaled down the stairs. Can't they see I come in peace? Of course it did. Your smile should have made it clearer for them to see, Drake snarked, but then coughed awkwardly, lowering his tone to a polite one. Well then Lucifer. I wager you're quite the powerful being, as you are the son of God. Do you suppose you can, perhaps, unseal me? Ah, look who's suddenly well-mannered now, eh? Lucifer hummed, and Drake laughed awkwardly. The idea was amusing. It tickled him in the right place of his heart. Along with women, songs, sex, and drinks, he loved juicy propositions the most. There was a reason a deal with the devil is a famously notorious phrase. Let's assume that I can. What will I get in return? Well, what do you want? My service. Men. Lucifer pondered for a while as his russet eyes eyed the ruined pillar. I do fancy the sound of a dragon serving under my name. You can be like those pampered priests and say my name each time you do something special. No price could mean anything for freedom. Very well, I'll be under your service. Brilliant. The man said as he continued his stroll. So, will you do it? Do what? Unseal me? Ah, right. How will I do that? But do you know what else he loved other than those noted above? Playing a usually harmless trick on someone else. Before the Welsh dragon let loose of his rampant rage, Lucifer switched off the link that connected their thoughts, and walked with a fresh satisfaction. Several paces later, he arrived in front of large double doors. And him being the polite gentleman unlike those dead gentlemen upstairs, Lucifer knocked 3 times, and waited for a reply. When there was none, he sauntered inside, not bothering to take a peek and walking in as though he had been here. The place might be dead but civility shouldn't have to. He whistled as he took in the surprisingly eerier spot. What kind of church is this? Why do I feel that some sort of satanic sect had meetings here? That, or a KKK meeting. Pausing, Lucifer wondered aloud. What century am I in again? A dozen figures cloaked in black robes turned to him. He paid them no mind as he was busy looking around, poking around like a girl in a SeaWorld aquarium. He had only seen this kind of place in movies, a massive room with a tall ceiling, tall enough to fit lengthy stairways leading to a huge cross at the middle, where there chained a young girl. Her head hung low, and she wasn't moving. Probably dead. On a side note, she was covered in only her underwear, but Lucifer was not a priest. He didn't see pubescent girls as potential bedmates. He was a devil, not a deranged pedophile. He strolled around the area like a tourist, poking stuff that sparked his interest, before recoiling from the thick dusts as two fallen angels flew at him. "Who the hell are you?" one of them greeted the devil. Not a friendly greeting, but it was an improvement compared to the incivility of those upstairs. "Good evening." Lucifer smiled in a friendly manner. "Have you ever considered a spring cleaning? The place is quite dusty." "Who are you?" demanded one of the fallen angels in a high-pitched feminine voice. A blonde girl dressed in a black gothic, Lolita dress. Cutesy wasn't his type, so he ignored her deliberately. Besides, she ignored him in the first place. "What do you want?" The voice of the woman in burgundy suit was deeper, suitable for a villainess with her contralto. This fallen angel, though, was certainly daring. It was a miracle how her suit buttons hadn't given into her massive breasts' pressure. "Need I ask one more? What do you want? Presently? Your name? Later on? You?" Lucifer grinned hintfully, which infuriated Mittelt. "Stop spouting nonsense," Mittelt warned, pointing her pink light spear in an attempt to threaten him. The other fallen angel seemed perplexed for a moment. The first devil appeared to be taken aback, a feigning act he mastered to gain sympathy, or revulsion if executed poorly. "But lady, I spout no nonsense," he said as he smoothed his eyes upon Warner's cleavage. "I know what I want." And then steadily crept up past her lips, over her slowly flushing cheeks, and ended at her shadowy yellow irises, holding her eyes in a deep gaze as he transpired the most carnal of sins, lust. Or who I want, for that matter. Yes. The woman shifted her legs, swallowed her saliva that was accumulating quickly, and breathed heavier. Hotter. Like a woman in need of a man's caress. "I.d love too." Warner, snap out of it. Warner blinked, breaking the spell and her growing desires over the sharply dressed man. As the gothic Lolita ruined his charm, Lucifer decided to return to his previous objective instead of getting furious. Getting irate was a great thing to do if he wanted to stave off these women. "Is Amano Yahuwah here?" "It's Raina, and how do you know that name?" Another voice came from above as another fallen angel approached them. That spiteful, racy voice, lustrous thighs, perfectly ample body layered in revealing black outfit, there was no mistaking it. "Ah. Raina, I see. Raina and Warner. Exquisite names. Much better than something ending with L," Lucifer exclaimed, switching glances between the two women. "But, dearie me, aren't you the bold ones? Can't blame you I suppose. I'd put on a little bit of a show too if I had a body like either of yours." "Are you saying there's something wrong with mine, huh?" Mittel took offense, and her anger seemingly coursed to her light spear as its crackle intensified. Lucifer raised his hands, yieldingly. "Calm down, being sensual isn't a choice, it's a commitment." While boiling Mittel's blood, he stole an indiscreet glance at Rainer. She appeared skeptical at first, but was starting to be drawn into him. He could see the smile her lips barely suppressed about to break out like the lust that was slowly burning her body, heating her up as it did to her fellow friend. "Tell me what's your plan for tonight? I'd love to hang around by this place but wouldn't want any dusts on those smooth skins of yours, would we? Say, how about a very late dinner at a hotel? Perhaps a couple of drinks until you find me attractive." He saw the two ladies exchange glances with each other while the blonde girl was seething in anger. "If that's so, then we'll have plain water, what?" Hearing that, Lucifer was flattered. His smile became even more appealing as it changed to a genuine one. He loved compliments. Well? Are you girls waiting for me to say it? What are we waiting for? The double doors crashed open, breaking into wooden shrapnel. A guy in white robe tumbled over the floor, raising himself with a sword. Yet another holy infused weapon, Lucifer thought, absently. Hey! Did Father just give them away for free? Did he start a charity event some time ago? Freed? Rainer said. Fuck. Freed shouted, replying to no one in particular. He appeared unharmed, just a bit dusty. Hey Ray, those damn devils followed me here, and, tch. He was cut short as he had to parry a sword. Freed distanced himself. Handsome bastard. Smiling as he held his demonic sword, Kiba replied with a nod. Repulsive priest. I call you Hansen, goddammit. Freed blazed, flailing his blade. And you call me repulsive? Fucking devil you are, you really wanna die, huh? The reincarnated devil was not alone, though, as the rest of his group showed up from the wide-open double doors, and as the darkly robed people started to scamper away, the fallen angels had abandoned Lucifer completely. Hey wait, bollocks. Me and my luck. Lucifer groaned as Rias and company made their appearances. Sure, they were like him, a devil, but they just cock-blocked him. A bit dirty now, Lucifer took a seat at a nearby statue, not bothering to be noticed, and watched the scene ensued in silence, conjecturing a future where devils and fallen angels could hold hands together and commit a massive orgy in a room, where he is preferably the only male in there. Fallen angel Rainer, the crimson-haired devil began with a tone, not only have you murdered a student of my school, in my territory nonetheless, you dared to kidnap another. Her eyes traveled to follow the huge stairway leading up to a chained blonde girl. And then Rias seethed, killed her as well. Ah yes, she killed me. Lucifer thought negligently as he looked at the huge cross, finding the aforementioned student still hanging around. Still very much dead, she seemed. He returned his attention to the conflict after his eyes wandered off at Caleb Warner's chest. Please, they're just humans. Raina replied with a certain edge in her voice. Also, I find it odd that you didn't prevent the kidnappings in the first place despite you having your servants close by, right as of house screamery. It is as though you intended them to die in the first place. How is that any better than what I do? Then flickered a flame in his soul. Anger? No. More like a certain type of fascination. Devils were meant to be as manipulative as possible for their own welfare, to be free with their will, unbound by anything other than their ability to influence control over anything that wasn't absolute. This Rias seemed to have potential to be special. How beguiling. A smile crept up on his features as he eyed the Crimson Devil in particular, taking in her stunning elegance matched with confidence, her sinfully curvaceous figure that certainly shouldn't belong to a high schooler, judging from her uniform. Actually, he had seen those before. Weren't those the uniforms of a school he used to attend as that boy? What was his name again? Well, that was expected. He could never recall what happened in his past memories, no matter how fresh. Maybe so it was easier for him to move on with his new life? Who knows? His father worked in mysterious ways, so he supposed if he crushed his balls, he should just think it was by father's will. Yeah, no. Lucifer would never anything crush his devilish jewels for one, and he knew one truth about his father. He gave no shit. And then there was much shouting, the metallic clashing of swords, spells brewing and howling thunderously, spurts of blood splashing like a thriller movie, followed with fitting terrorized screams. Then pain and agony and, ultimately, death. Oh Lord, the horror. It had been a long while, several thousand years, in fact since he had last seen a fight up close, and the display of power of destruction in the flesh. Or on the flesh of a fallen angel. It was quite devastating, he noticed. Kinda burnt like cast. He was sure Baal had that gift, but time could dull memory even if it was the memory of an angel turned devil, and Lucifer had been sleeping in that tomb for a long, long time. Hers was weaker though, so it was possible he mistook it as some new spells. Like new kids and there are always new phones. Well, no matter. He considered strength wasn't as important as wit. Rainer died swiftly. Too bad, he supposed, but the devil wasn't known to grow attachment. Desires? Yes, very much so. But developing attachment for someone he simply wished to lie down on a bed, for a day and possibly toss away in a matter of days. Never. Especially not towards a flock of mature fallen angels who couldn't fend themselves against these younger devils. Stronger, more talented, and conveniently better looking. As the noises died down, Lucifer got off from his spectator seat, making himself known as finally, the devils became aware of his presence. Not in a good welcoming manner, as shown by their battle stance, to which he carefully tread over the black remains of the fallen angels, feeling not much remorse despite they were supposed to be his dates for the nights. They didn't matter when someone more enticing arrived. Lucifer paused his steps and raised both his hands, showing his empty palms. He watched her sleek crimson eyebrows furrowed in suspicion. Who are you? You're no crows. Rias said inquisitively, appearing troubled. Something inside her made her think she knew him, somehow, somewhere, despite having never seen him before. The reincarnated devils felt nothing but an increasing feeling of wariness. That was normal for anyone who met him back then. Lucifer